snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so today I'm going to be filming the My TBR Shame Tag, which was created by Sarah Churchill originally, so I will link her channel down below. I wasn't tagged, but I felt like doing it because I have a lot of TBR books. Quite honestly, I don't even know how many books that I have on my TBR because I literally have an entire bookshelf full of books that I have not read, so I thought I would go through them all with you guys, and maybe you guys can give me some suggestions of which ones I should get to very, very quickly and which ones you guys have read and really enjoyed, so that I can pick them up a lot quicker and sort of arrange them into some sort of reading order. Let's just get started. I'm not going to tell you all about them because there's too many to go through, but I might read you like the top line of the summary or something like that. So yeah, let's get started and see how many there are. Book 1 is The Dwarves by Marcus Heitz, and that is a story all about dwarves and a dwarf called Tungdil who goes on a big adventure all around to save his kingdom. Next is The Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan. This book is book 5 in the Wheel of Time series, following the adventures of Rand al'Thor. Next, A Darkness at Sethenon, which is book 3 in the Magician trilogy by Raymond E. Feist, following the adventures of Pug, who is a novice magician. Next, I have the first 7 books in the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett: The Colour of Magic, The Light Fantastic, Equal Rights, Mort, Sorcery, Weird Sisters and Pyramids. Then I have the next 8 in the same series, again by Terry Pratchett. That is Guards, Moving Pictures, Reaper Man, Witches Abroad, Small Gods, Men at Arms, Soul Music, and Eric. All of these are set in Discworld, which is a world on top of a giant turtle who floats through space, and a load of elephants help to hold up a flat world. It's rather crazy and sounds rather fun. Next I have Wool and Shift, which are by Hugh Howey. They are supposedly an adult dystopian, which sounds really, really cool, and everyone lives underground in silos. Next I have Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, which is supposedly a geeky and nerdy world which is very dystopian. Next I have The Age of Miracles by Karen Thompson Walker, which is again dystopian and is all about how what would happen if time suddenly started stretching and hours became days and days became weeks and everything kind of started going wrong. Next I have A Discovery of Witches and Shadow of Night by Deborah Harkness, and they are all about a world where there are witches, demons, werewolves and vampires, and there is a manuscript that holds all of the keys to their past and they are fighting over it, I'm gonna assume. Next I have a collection of Stephen King books. I have book 2, 3 and 4 in the Dark Tower series, which are The Drawing of the Three, The Wastelands, Wizard and Glass, and I have read book 1, so I definitely will be continuing on with this series. Then I have Dreamcatcher by Stephen King. Next I have another box set which is by Lauren Kate, and this one is the Fallen box set, including Fallen, Torment and Passion. And it's supposedly about angels, so that one sounds pretty cool as well. Next I have Blood and Ice by Robert Marcello, which is all about a man who is commissioned to write an article, and when he goes he actually finds 2 people chained together and locked in a big clump of ice. Next I have Fire by Kristin Cashore, and this is about a girl called Fire, and she has very beautiful features which she uses to lure people to her and get them to do as she pleases, I'm assuming. I'm not really sure. Next I have The Iron Witch by Karen Mahoney. This is about a girl called Donna who is cursed with super strength, which she does everything possible that she can to hide from. Next I have Heartstone, which is by C.J. Sansom, and this is set in the 1500s and it's in the time of Henry VIII. So it's a historical fiction. Next I have Rules of Civility by Amor Towles, and this is set in the 1930s in America, and it sounds like it's all about sort of the flapper age, and I'm definitely intrigued by it. Next I have 2 Zadie Smith books, White Teeth and On Beauty, and I don't really know anything about these 2 because the blurb is not very specific, but they both sound like they're interesting and I've heard very, very good things about the author generally. Next I have The Hollow and Dark Places, which is book 3 in the Carrie Ryan trilogy, The Forest of Hands and Teeth. I don't have the second one, which is why I've never got round to the third one. but it's about zombies and it's pretty good. Next I have The Eight by Catherine Neville. This is a story set in 1790 and it's all about a young girl who finds a magical chess set which has codes within it, and it's all about breaking the code, so it sounds pretty cool and it's quite similar to the Da Vinci Code, at least that's what I understand. Next I have Warrior Daughter by Janet Paisley, which is set in ancient times and is about a young warrior whose mother is killed and she has to take over ruling the tribe and earn her way to respect. Next I have The Book of Unholy Mischief by L. Newmark, and this is all about a magical book that people have been searching for years and has finally been found by an orphan. Next I have One Day by David Nicholas. This has been made into a film and it is a contemporary romance story as far as I understand. Next I have The News Where You Are by Catherine O'Flynn, and this focuses on a guy called Frank who works in an office and has a fairly average life, but he kind of starts looking into the death of his predecessor and I'm sure madness ensues. Next I have two books by Kate Morton, who is supposed to be highly regarded, and that is The Forgotten Garden and The House at Riverton. They are both historical fictions as far as I understand and sound very interesting. Next I have Jane Austen's 7 novels, which includes all 7 of her works, and I have actually started Sense and Sensibility but I've not got very far. So yeah, I'm bad with classics. Next I have Bone, which is a graphic novel, and this is the collection of all of the graphic novels published in one edition by Jeff Smith. This is a really cute and quirky cartoon style story and it's very, very fun, so highly enjoyable and very fun for kids. I have started it but I have not finished it. I am not very far through it, but it is really fun from what I've read. Next I have Ilium by Dan Simmons. This is supposedly based off of Homer's Iliad and kind of views it in a sci-fi way, so I'm quite intrigued by this, but it's quite a big book, so let me know if I should read this one. Next I have J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which is a bind-up of all 3 in the series, and it is a huge and epic adventure involving wizards and hobbits and all sorts of strange and wonderful creatures. Next I have Hood by Stephen R. Lawhead, which is an adaptation of Hood, as in Robin Hood. Then I have Wicked by Gregory Maguire, which is the original book that the play has been based off of, so I'm definitely interested in reading this one, because I really, really enjoyed the West End musical. It was amazing. Next I have The Library of Gold by Gail Linds, which is all about an ancient library which has disappeared hundreds of years ago, and suddenly the CIA think that they may have found it. Next I have The Cathedral of the Sea by Ildefonso Falcones, and this is the extraordinary historical epic which took Europe by storm and is all about a young man who is fleeing for his life from a lord and ends up finding his freedom in a cathedral which is being built. Next I have Snowdrops by A.D. Miller, which is set in Russia and is all about snowdrops, which is the Russian term for the bodies that come up in the thaw, all of the drunks and so on, and it's all about a guy called Nick who ends up falling for a Russian woman. Next I have Zulu Heart, which is by Saul David and is all about a guy who's fighting in a big war and he has to decide whether to fight for his country or to fight for his ancestry, because he is part British and part Zulu warrior. Next I have 1984 by George Orwell, which is a classic and is all about Big Brother and his suspicions of what he thought would happen in the future, some of which have come true in modern day society and others which haven't, so I'm definitely interested to get onto this as soon as I possibly can. Next I have The Magic of Recluse by L.E. Modizit Jr. and this is an epic fantasy. It's the first one in the series, so I always love a good epic fantasy. Next I have The Courtesan's Lover by Gabrielle Kim, and this is of course all about courtesan life and life. Next I have When God Was a Rabbit, which is by Sarah Winman and is supposedly the story of love in all of its forms. Next I have Dead Beautiful by Yvonne Woon, which is all about a girl who goes to a new school and there she meets a wonderful guy called Dante, and he's dark and mysterious but maybe a little bit too mysterious. Next I have Shatter by Michael Robotham, and this is a thriller crime novel, so I don't usually read these, so I'm definitely interested in this one. Next I have Gone Girl and Dark Places, which are by Gillian Flynn, and both of these are thrillers and they are about a guy called Nick whose wife suddenly disappears and he swears that it was not him, but then his computer reveals some very strange searches and it's kind of all about what happened to his wife. Next I have Witchlight by Susan Fletcher, which is the story of a witch who is imprisoned in a dungeon and she is being interviewed about her life, and it's the story of her life and everything that happened to her. Next I have Red Riding Hood, which is by Sarah Blakely Cartwright and David Leslie Johnson. This is the Red Riding Hood book that the film was based off of that came out fairly recently. Next I have 3 books by Ken Follett. The first one is Fall of Giants, which is a historical fiction all about people working in the mines and the trials and tribulations that they face. And then the other 2 are The Pillars of the Earth and The World Without End, which are both all about a guy who is struggling to build a cathedral and how he gets it all done. And it sounds really interesting because I'm really into architecture, so sounds like it'll be quite detailed and interesting in that area. Next I have Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, which is a story all about London after all of the magicians have gone except for one who is called Mr. Norrell and the trouble that he gets up to. Then I have The Silmarillion, which is by J.R.R. Tolkien and is set in the First Age of Middle-earth, and it is all about the Silmarilli artifacts which caused a massive war. Next I have Through the Evernight and Into the Still Blue, books 2 and 3 in the Under the Never Sky series by Veronica Rossi. I really enjoyed the first one, so I'm excited about the second and third. It's set in a dystopian world where everyone lives under a massive dome, except for people who live out in the wild and contaminated world. Next I have Ship of Magic, which is book 1 in the Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, and this is an epic fantasy which I am very much looking to get into after having read the Farseer trilogy, which I do also own at university. Next I have Heroes of the Valley by Jonathan Stroud. This is a children's middle grade book and it's all about a guy who wants to become a hero. Next I have Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews, which is a contemporary read about 2 guys who are best friends and then they have to befriend a girl who has cancer, and it's all about what happens to their life once they meet her. Next I have Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, which is a Cinderella adaptation. Again, this is by Gregory Maguire, who wrote Wicked. Next I have The Owl Killers, which is by Karen Maitland, and this is a novel which is set in the Dark Ages and is all about a village which is ruled over by some tyrants, and then a group of religious women come outside the city and make their own little village, and everything seems to be going right with them, stirring up some jealousy with the original village. Next I have Labyrinth, Sepulchre and Citadel, which are all by Kate Moss. This is a series all about a mysterious book which is found and then hundreds of years later is refound, and it's all about how the girl who finds it discovers a lot of terrible things from her past whilst having found the book. Next I have Poppet and Gone by Mo Hader. These are both crime novels. I have The Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan, which is the second series including Percy Jackson, and I'm very excited to get onto this. Next I have The Rook by Daniel O'Malley, and this is all about a woman who wakes up and she is sopping wet and she's in a park and she finds a letter in her pocket which is written from her previous self warning her about something terrible. Next I have the Eragon series, book 1, 2 and 3, Eragon, Eldest and Brisinga by Christopher Paolini, and this is all about dragons, which I'm really excited about because I love them. Next I have Ptolemy's Gate, which is book 3 in the Bartimaeus trilogy by Jonathan Stroud. I don't have book 1 or 2, I just found this in the charity shop and the cover was beautiful and I didn't realise it was book 3. Next I have The Key, Sanctus and The Tower, all of which are by Simon Toyne. I believe that this is a fantasy series, I'm not entirely sure, but it looks really interesting and I've heard good things about it. So if you know anything more, let me know. Next I have Rome, The Art of War by M.C. Scott. I didn't realise, but this is actually, I believe, the 4th one in the series, so I need to get the others before I can read this, but it's all about Rome and it's a historical fiction account of a war that happened in Rome, as far as I can understand. Next I have Angelology by Danielle Trassoni, and this is all about a girl who works in a sort of library, and she suddenly one day finds out about this body that has not decayed and is in pristine condition even after death. I can guess that it's about angels from the cover. Next I have Isabel and Under Heaven, both of which are by Guy Gavriel Kay, and he is meant to be a very, very good fantasy author, so I'm very excited to get onto these sometime soon. Next I have Eon, Rise of the Dragoneye by Alison Goodman, and this is book 1 in a duology about a girl who disguises herself as a boy, kind of Mulan-esque, and is all to do with dragons, so Why would I not like it? Next, I have Pure by Andrew Miller. This is all about Paris in the 18th century, and it's about the demolition of a graveyard which is entrusted to one man who starts the job and then realises that maybe this is not quite as good an idea as he originally had. Next, I have Ink Exchange, which is by Melissa Marr, and again, I believe that this is the second one in a series. I'm not really sure what it's about because I don't want to spoil myself. Next, I have Geek Girl by Holly Small. This is about a girl who wants to change from being a geek who nobody likes into something better, so she leaps at the opportunity when she gets given the chance, and it's about her transformation, I'm assuming. Me and you gonna have a little chat about the